Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, political fighters. Welcome to the August 20th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. And of course, we are broadcasting on WARR in North Carolina and KTNF up in Minnesota. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. I've gotten through all my emails, guys. Got caught up. Follow me on all the socials under Choose Views and catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. And the reason I emphasize subscribing is because we want you guys to subscribe. We want you guys to comment all the time. Tell us your thoughts. We will listen. We address them. That's where you can get, though, all of our good featured interviews, Choose Views featured interviews. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez driving it home. It's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. In the evenings, of course, The Politics Bar, The Matt McNeil Show, and The Gailey Show. And our folks have been really busy over at heartlandsignal.com. Let me give you a couple of the quick updates of things that are there that you can check out. Obviously, Christian Castro is not above the law, and Greg Abbott isn't either. That's coming from Minnesota AG Keith Ellison, part of the DFL, is suing Texas Governor Greg Abbott to force the extradition of ICE agent Castro, who is charged with the felony assault for shooting a man through his home front door. Go get him, AG Ellison. He's the real one, Henry. And Mike, A.G. Ellison is not to be messed with. And what I'm liking about this kind of energy is that other AGs certainly have been involved. Our AG right here in Illinois, Kwame Raoul, he's not to be messed with. So there's a story that there's a lawsuit that's being filed that I may be talking about with one of our guests today, but I will read this to you as part of a story that is kind of flying under the radar. But of course, our digital newsroom at Heartland Signal is not letting that happen untouched. It sounds like jets taking off, but they never exit the runway. What's that coming from? It never stops. Residents near Elon Musk's Memphis area AI data centers speak out against the constant deafening noise and unpermitted gas turbines spewing toxic air pollution into local neighborhoods. This is a big A deal, guys. The NAACP has filed a lawsuit on behalf of the citizens in that community. Go to our heartlandsignal.com to check out this article. And I'm going to hopefully talk to one of our guests today about that. And I may be talking about it a little bit more tomorrow. That's the reason you go to Heartland Signal. It's stuff that you aren't going to get at many other places. And that, as I always say, I say it with some fun, but from the serious tone, you aren't going to get this other places. You're going to get it here, and you're going to get it with Heartland Signal. So make sure you make your way over. Our guests today are Richard Kalbaum, who is chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farm Labor Party, also known as the DFL. He'll be with us in the 6:30 hour. He's been with us before. Will bring us up to speed on what's happening in Minnesota politics. Ann Kim is a senior editor at Washington Monthly and author of Poverty for Profit: How Corporations Get Rich Off of America's Poor. She's also the co-editor of Betrayed: America Did Not Vote for This. She's great. I can't wait to talk to Ann this morning. And Adam Klasfeld, founder and editor-in-chief of All Rise News. And I'll be hopefully talking with Adam about this lawsuit that the NAACP has filed against Elon Musk's AI firm. That's basically what they're doing, guys. I don't have enough time to adequately cover it, but I'll just say this real quickly. What they're doing now more and more is they're going into communities, and you've heard some of this. They're going into communities that have been established smaller communities of colors, more specifically African-American communities, and they're just raping the land, and they're affecting the air quality. And I saw the report that was done on this particular story around these AI centers sound like turbine engines, jet engines that are. If you've sat on a runway for, well, that's not even the best example. If you've been at an airport where you hear the jet engines, this woman described it as the engines. It sounds like they're constantly running at that high speed, but they're not taking off, so that there's not the escalation of the engine noise and then the quieting down of the engine noise. So those are our guests today. That's who's on the show, and we're looking forward to having good conversations with all three of our guests. Today's question of the day is one that, you guys want. Hopefully you'll participate in this one. With so many races in the country right now, I don't mean that's interesting. So many races as in cultural races, but political races in the country right now. Henry looked at me like, With so many political races in the country right now, what race or races are you going to try working on or contributing to this cycle? I'm curious. There might be some races that some political races that we haven't talked about. And if you guys feel like we should be talking about them, then I want to hear from you in that space. If there are ones that we have been talking about and you feel we should be talking about more, I want to hear from you in that space as well. So bottom line is, what race or political races are you guys following closest and want to be a part of? And I've said this for a couple of years now, all races matter. If you're on one end of the country or one part of the country and there's a race somewhere else in the country, that race, if you are part of our team, part of our tent, should matter to you, because you want the people, if it's a state race, local race, or federal race, you want the people in that district to be represented properly. And I would think that if you are in Boston, you want the folks in Seattle to be taken care of. And if you're in Los Angeles, you want the folks in Miami and every place in between to be taken care of. So let me know. Let us know by giving us a phone call at 773-763-9278 or a text message to that same number. Or you can most definitely go to our Facebook page. We'll get your comments there and we'll try to read them on the air. So let us know what political races you're going to, now that we're in this 80-day period of time, soon to be in the 70s, that you're going to be leaning into. Because once we get past Labor Day, the energy is going to spike up. I've been seeing a lot of reports talking about, like I said, I've been saying for the past few weeks, the amount of GOP money that's going to hit. But I want to pay a little tribute to one of our very own for a quick moment. We got a couple of clips that I'd like you guys to hear. We got one from Governor Pritzker that we're going to go to, and then we're going to go to one right after that from our own Senator Tammy Duckworth.
There is one person here without whom our success as a party could not have happened. The child of a Lithuanian immigrant, son of East St. Louis, a career that began at a meatpacking plant that produced a man who would one day become one of the most influential leaders ever to walk the halls of the United States Senate. Senator Dick Durbin. Senator Durbin has been a true champion for the people of Illinois, from the countless children and families that he's protected through his truly lifelong fight for consumer safety, to the DACA immigrants who have long deserved a pathway to citizenship. To the smoke-free experience that we all now enjoy on commercial flights. And so much more. And as the Senate Minority Whip and the Judiciary Committee's Democratic leader, he has fought like hell to protect our civil rights and economic justice. Senator Durbin, your legacy has lifted up millions of Americans, not just Illinoisans, and your statesmanship has made us so proud to be from Illinois. On behalf of the citizens of this great state and the Democratic Party you have helped to build, we honor you for your outstanding public service.
We are a safe state for immigrants. And Kwame, where are you, Kwame? If you're out there, I love your new slogan, don't toy with Illinois. If you want to put that on a T-shirt and say, don't f***ing toy with Illinois, I will buy a dozen of them. Put it on a T-shirt, Kwame. Sell those T-shirts.
Yeah, Law. Look, guys. Our leaders here in Illinois, we should be very proud of them. They fight like hell for us and the rest of the country, to be honest. Governor Pritzker has made this state a safe place for folks to come to, with this administration taking away rights for women, health care concerns for women. He's made it clear that we're going to protect as many people as we can. He did the best he could with Greg Abbott acting like a damn fool and sending human beings on a bus and to another state. Mayor Johnson, the county officials, the state officials stepped up to do the best they could under the circumstances. You want to criticize them? You sit in those seats when someone drops that on your lap. Senator Duckworth, another fighter. I mean, I ain't messing with her. She'll drop an F-bomb in a minute, and a few others, but for purpose. And, you know, Kwame Raoul, our attorney general, like others, Keith Ellison, are fighting hard. So let's give our state officials in blue states some props and flowers, because they're fighting an uphill battle. Imagine, if you guys know, if you're familiar with the book, Ayn Rand's book, Atlas Shrugged. Whether you're a fan of Ayn Rand or not isn't the point. But imagine the visual of Atlas with the globe on his shoulders. That's how many Democratic leaders are having to operate right now. We can criticize them to death, but the reality is that's what they're doing right now, particularly on the state level. They're holding up. They're keeping us as together as we can be. And I've been critical of pretty much all of them in one way or the other. Some people hate that I say anything not positive about Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries or many others. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stand with them before I stand against them. You can believe that. So for anyone who wants to criticize, a voice who wants to criticize to make our team better, you can go kick rocks, because we're going to stand with them while you're on the side keyboard worrying about, you know, how imperfect we, you know, are, how, you know, the purity test garbage. That being said, Governor Pritzker, thank you for honoring Senator Dick Durbin, who you all know is leaving the Senate this fall or at the end of this term, and to Senator Duckworth for her great comments about the T-shirts that AG Kwame Raoul has put together for our people. So there you go. Just I wanted to give them their, those are two clips that our team here had put together, and I wanted to give them their recognition as well as the recognition to Senator Durbin. Let's hit them with a couple of quick Choose Views news items. Henry, on this August 20th, 2026, new visa rules could be catastrophic in terms of lawsuits. A new lawsuit seeks to block the Trump cabal rule that would restrict the duration of U.S. stays for international students and journalists. I wonder why they don't want to do that, meaning letting folks stay for a longer period of time. A complaint filed this week by a coalition of unions and advocacy groups says the rule's impact would be catastrophic. Set to take effect as soon as September 15th, it would cap student and exchange visa periods for 4 years, journalist visas for 240 days, and journalist visas for Chinese nationals at 90 days. In a statement, a spokesman for the federal government dismissed the case as performative. Well, you can dismiss it all you want to. Flight attendants, pilots have jobs with the highest risk of cancer. I did not know this. People who have professions that expose them to cosmic radiation at high altitudes, particularly pilots and flight attendants, have the highest risk of dying from radiation-related cancers. According to a new study, researchers looked at 12 million death certificates that included occupation details, then accounted for mortality rates from cancer deaths linked to radiation exposure, including skin, breast, thyroid, lymph, blood, and prostate. Data showed flight attendants had a roughly 50% higher risk of dying from radiation-related cancers than the wider population, and pilots had the highest at 36%. Factory-built homes make a comeback amid some affordability concerns. Some developers are embracing an unexpected solution: factory-built homes. Once branded unsafe and even banned in some places, manufactured homes are now popping up in the burbs. They're generally cheaper than the site-built dwellings, averaging less than $91,000 apiece, and new legislation is making them easier to build. So there you go, finding another option. Novo puts the lowest doses of Wegovy pill to the test. More self-paying patients are relying on the lowest doses of Novo Nordisk Wegovy pill to treat obesity. The drug maker said recently, now Novo wants to know the lowest dose patients can take this on to lose weight. The company sanctioned a multi-year study of over 450 overweight people that they will compare two low doses of the medication against a placebo. Critically, lower doses of the Wegovy pill cost about half what many patients say they pay for higher doses. And last but not least, and this one really, Amazon is to boost their drone deliveries to nearly 500 cities. Amazon announced yesterday that it plans to expand its Prime Air drone delivery service to nearly 500 cities and towns, serving tens of millions of customers by the end of this year. That's 6 times as large as the area it currently covers, while making hundreds of thousands of deliveries across 7 states, including Arizona, Florida, and Michigan. The expansion will add parts of Georgia, Ohio, Illinois, Idaho, and New York. Amazon sees drone service as a key to its goal of 30-minute deliveries, but some residents have voiced noise and privacy concerns. And I kind of agree with that. So we'll have to keep posted as to how that goes. I guess my feelings are, from a safety standpoint, we also have to look at that. Like, things flying around and dropping at the wrong time, dropping at an intersection, passing over a school, dropping over students at the wrong time. Those kinds of things could be tragic. So this is one of those things where, convenience sometimes isn't always convenience. That's just me. So there you go, guys. A couple of quick Choose Views news items on this August 20th, 2026. We have a month. Now, don't be fooled. Labor Day does not mean the end of summer. Henry and Mike and I are going to still be running around in our bathing suits and stuff. Working on our big boy tans. We have another 30 days of summer according to the calendar. So believe in the calendar, not in the attitude. That's right. Here are a couple of quick items that are taking place here at WCPT. For those who are listening to WCPT today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Greg Hines, columnist for Crain's Chicago Business, and Heartland Signal's Rich Eberwine, with 3 stories you might have missed from our digital newsroom. But if you've been paying attention and then go over there, you won't miss them. Live, Local, and Progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And then for my listeners here on WCPT tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by Peter Janko, candidate for Illinois House and the 69th District. He currently serves as Democratic State Central Committee person for Illinois' 11th Congressional District. Ellie Krug, a transgender activist, lawyer, author of Being Ellen, A Second Chance at Life, and host of the Illegal Trans Woman on KTNF AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Mike Bidenow, Navy veteran, historic preservationist, and author of Reviving Our Republic, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7, here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow's Friday. Karen Byrne, co-host of True Blue Politics podcast, will be hanging out with us. Amy McDonald, host of The Foolish Optimist with Amy McDonald, and Illinois Congressman Sean Casten, Democrat serving the 6th District, will be joining us. So looking forward to hanging out with our guest tomorrow. I'm going to give you guys a couple of just quick bullet points. Yesterday, when I was talking with our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. We talked a little bit about issues with regard to Medicare, but more broadly our healthcare system. And I mentioned a few things that I thought were important. But on today's quick segment of Something to Chew On, I just want to share with you some of the points that I made yesterday around how we can immediately impact the cost of health insurance, health care, and reduce the pressure on American citizens. Some very quick solutions that I put together, and I talked about this yesterday with some of the help from the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities. First of all, ensure affordable premiums. Secondly, reduce cost sharing, i.e. eliminating the co-pays and eliminating deductibles completely in their entirety. Take those away, and those are out-of-pocket items that go away, and then keep money in the pockets of those that are insured, whether it be through the ACA or other forms of coverage. Just eliminate them completely. Strengthen coverage requirements. In other words, make sure that the insurance companies, the provider, is fully in. They go the full mile. They cover everything. Why not? Why would we not cover everything and be damn pre-existing conditions? Create federal backstops for coverage. That means that when the insurance companies slip up or try to create a situation where they're not going to cover things, that the federal government steps in and says, nope, we're going to cover it. This is one of those moments when I say, why are we sending the money we're sending to certain other countries? And I'll be specific to Israel. Why are we sending it there when we could be sending it to backstop our healthcare system? And then last but not least, simplify the plans and options and the ways to enrollment. Until we get to a point where maybe we can have Medicare for all, these are my 5 that I think make the most immediate sense, because they really don't cost anything. It's just moving the needle over. But there you go, a couple of quick items from Something to Chew On here today on WCPT. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chew's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Chew's Views, and I'm Richard Chew. So I say this all the time because I like to give our folks flowers in real time, and our leadership on a state level is better than the other team. It just is. Folks just deal with it, accept it, embrace it, and say, okay, let me roll with these folks because they're getting it done. Richard Kalbaum is the chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farm Labor Party, DFL as it's commonly known. And he's back with us this morning. So, Richard, good morning and welcome back to Chew's Views. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, as I say oftentimes, let's just dive into the deep end of the pool. Lots of happening across the country with our primaries in other states, but certainly right there in yours. We had ours earlier in the year, back in the late winter, early spring. But talk to us about some of the results that came in. Talk to us about how folks are feeling. I know I'm ready to throw a particular Republican under the bus because you and I'll have some fun with that. But let's talk about our team first. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So August 11th, we had a primary about a week and a half ago, and I got to tell you, people turned out. I measure the strength of our democracy by how many people want to participate, and we broke records on August 11th. We had more than 1.1 million people vote in our primary election in Minnesota, biggest turnout ever for a primary election, and 63% of them voted on the DFL side of the ballot, which was just astounding. In fact, for example, our winning U.S. Senate candidate on the Democratic side, Peggy Flanagan, who is our nominee to run for our open U.S. Senate seat, got more votes than every Republican combined on the other side, which just demonstrates how strong our candidate is coming out of that election. Really, one of the great stats. I don't know if we've ever done this before, but every single candidate who is endorsed by the Democratic Farmer Labor Party in Minnesota, the DFL, every single candidate endorsed won their competitive primary. We've defended 100% of our endorsements, so we're feeling pretty good about our success.
Yeah, we are too. I mean, we're neighboring states. And I'm just going to say it. I know we got Wisconsin is in between, but if we press Wisconsin hard enough, Richard, if we can, you and I can lean in hard enough. I'm not the state party chair, but I'm going to lean in with you and many other great leaders. We can get Wisconsin back on track. We can keep Minnesota on track. We can keep Illinois on track. Hopefully, we can get our brothers and sisters over in Michigan to do the right thing and stay on track there. And God willing, we get some good headwinds in Ohio. These 5 core, Midwestern states, and nobody in Iowa will get upset with me. Don't get upset. But these 5, we'll call them the Great Lakes states. How about that? That way we won't get anybody's business too much. If we can keep and then gain in those states, we're really saying something. And I think right now, the kind of leadership that you're showing, it's happening. And it's happening because this is what I'm hearing, Richard. So correct me if I'm wrong, or at least affirm it and talk more about it. It's because our candidates are good candidates. They understand the issues. It seems like good people. They come from the people that they're representing. But most importantly, man, they are listening to what the voters are saying they need to be acted on. Am I crazy, or am I even in the stadium?
No, you're spot on. The number one priority for Democrats in Minnesota, and should be for Democrats across the country, is listening to voters. We have to listen to voters. We have to learn what their priorities are. And then only then can we ask them to lead, right, to vote for our candidates in the election. That is so critical. Every survey that we take these days, voters are asked, what are you most frustrated about in politics? And they say, candidates and politicians have just stopped listening to whether or not I matter, whether or not my viewpoint actually will impact what they will do when in office. And so I tell our candidates all the time, make sure that you're emphasizing using your listening ears instead of just talking at people. We have to listen to what their priorities are. So I think that's the number one priority. And I think that's a recipe for success at the ballot box in November.
It's a recipe across the country, and I don't care. And help us understand something here for a second before I make a statement. I want to ask this question about this. Is it a perceived or is it a reality, this sort of DSA versus progressive versus moderate? I'll use those 3 markers in our party right now. If we were to say that's the tent is there, why is it being made up by the external forces that want to see us in division, or is it real? Give us an assessment as a chair, as a party leader in that space.
Well, first of all, one of my political heroes was Paul Wellstone, and he tragically died in a plane crash in 2002.
Yep.
In his final campaign. And I have to tell you, I sat down with some of his top leadership about a month ago to talk about this quote unquote divide within our party. One of the things that struck me was when I raised this question, they all started laughing, and they said, well, this is the debate we were having 30 years ago. Is the party being pulled too far left? Right. And that was the conversation 30 years ago. What I would say is this: we are a Big Ten party, and no element of this Big Tent is pulling us in one direction or another. There's no question that Minnesotans, that American citizens, that people in this country are deeply frustrated by the status quo. And so what we are feeling is an element of the electorate saying the status quo is not acceptable, and we need change. We need fighters in public office who are going to do everything they can to change the direction of this country, to change the direction of our healthcare system, to change the direction of increasing costs because of what Trump is doing to the economy, the Iraq war, tariffs, the big ugly bill, everything. They are deeply frustrated, and that is the pull we feel. You know, I think the DSA element in our party is a very minor element. I'll be honest with you. They're part of the coalition. And what I say to people is, if you identify as a democratic socialist and you support our platform on the DFL side, you are welcome to join our coalition. Just as if you're an independent and this year you're deeply frustrated and you want to vote for Democrats, join our coalition. We need everybody to make sure that this change takes place.
See, that's the conversation. And I wanted to ask you, of all people, that because of the state of Minnesota and its history, and just because oftentimes, Richard, and I know you know this as a leader, a selected and elected leader, that the talking points don't come from us. And I say this so often on my show. They don't come from us. That's not what we're saying. You know, it's what they're saying that should be said by us or through us, they being any of our opposition. And typically that's going to be those that are on the right. So I'm glad to hear you sort of say, listen, it is a big tent. Everybody's got a voice. But now that we're in this part of the game, you know, I go back to a great phrase from Magic Johnson. When the Lakers, he used to say fourth quarter's winning time. And right now we're about to enter the fourth quarter of this election cycle. So let's get our heads right and go get this thing done. So I wanted to hear that from you as someone that's in this leadership role with one of the most impactful handful of elections that are going on right now. Let's talk about that, because I have got to just make the comment. I know that, you know, you've got some statements, but it's kind of old that a person who's running for a leadership office, a U.S. Senate seat, would spend their time attacking the people of a state. And I'm speaking specifically of Michelle Tafoya. Embarrassed to admit, provincial state, take less trips to Starbucks. Okay, you got the baton.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've never seen a candidate for statewide office talk down to the people she hopes to represent in the United States Senate. You know, calling us a provincial state, telling us that you know, we just need to have a stiff upper lip when it comes to the war in Iran and the increase in gas prices. And if we want to meet the moment and be patriotic, we should just take one less trip to Starbucks in order to pay for that next tank of gas. She is so out of touch. She doesn't have a clue what real Minnesotans are facing. The cost pressures are real, and it's hurting families. It's hurting their pocketbooks. They're making real decisions about, you know, what kind of food can I put in my grocery cart today? And when they get to the checkout, some have to put things back on the shelf. That's very real. And if you go to food shelves in Minnesota these days and you ask people what they do for a living, they're not unemployed. Mm-hmm. They are working full-time jobs, and they're relying on the food shelf to get through the rest of the month because they can't afford to pay for groceries in the store. That's the real experience of people. Yet Michelle Tafoya, who's running for U.S. Senate in Minnesota, who's this sideline reporter, sports reporter, and has nothing but a talking point for us, she is talking down to Minnesotans every single day. There's not a bigger hater of Minnesota than Michelle Tafoya. Last weekend, a new meme broke out online, and it was Michelle Tafoya is so un-Minnesotan, right? And you know, in Minnesota, we're famous. You know, if there's one last piece of cake, we will cut it 15 different ways and still leave a little sliver. And people said last week, Michelle Tafoya is so un-Minnesotan that she calls it tater tot casserole. Yeah. In Minnesota, we call it tater tot hot dish.
I know, man. I didn't want to spoil your line on that, but it's just great, and it's so cool to see how you and other leaders in the state are fighting so hard right now. And I gave a shout out earlier because of a story at Heartland Signal, digital platform, about what AG Ellison is doing in terms of the extradition of the agent that shot the citizen through their door. you know, I've been telling people for the longest time, you got to stop messing with us in the Midwest. We will come back after you. We will do the thing that's to represent the people that have put us in a position of leadership or responsibility. So it's great to see what you're doing. It's great to see what A.G. Ellison is doing. And that fight is important to us right now.
Absolutely.
Chair, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the other side of that Senate race in terms of Ms. Flanagan, and I want to talk about Senator Klobuchar and her run. We'll talk a little bit about the trifecta, how we want to get that back, all that good stuff that Minnesota's doing right now. Let's take a quick break, though. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in for more of Chew's Views. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Chew's Views, and I'm Richard Chew. Thanks for being with us this morning. We are talking with Minnesota's DFL party chair, Richard Kalbaum, and as always, our state leaders, our chairs, are doing the work to get things done. We had on earlier in the week Anderson Clayton, who is in a similar role down in North Carolina, getting a head nod from Richard right now. Let me ask this question, then we'll get into the candidates. What's your relationship? Because I got a text from one of our listeners. What is your relationship with other party chairs, and how are you guys coalescing, working together to make sure that you're sharing ideas? Maybe I'm answering my own question, but how are y'all getting along? What are you all getting done?
That's a great question. You know, we are part of an association of Democratic State Committees, the ASDC, and we meet 4 times a year. We have monthly meetings on Zoom, and then we meet as a Midwest regional group as well once a month. And so we actually have a large amount of collaboration among our state party chairs, executive directors, and vice chairs. We all serve on different committees together. And one of the things that Minnesota's done actually in leading in this space is we've actually, when I was elected chair, I hired somebody who is called our director of special projects, kind of our innovation person. And we've been innovating a lot of different things to the point where Jane Klebb, our president of the ASDC, the Association of State Democratic Committees, asked us to host a once-a-month collaboration hub meeting where all state parties are welcome to send their staff. And then we feature projects that different states are taking up. In Florida, we featured a project in Florida that they are innovating when it comes to small donor outreach. In Utah, it was a whole finance approach. We've featured, direct voter contact and social media approaches in different states. And so we are trying to elevate the states are the laboratory of democracy, right? That was the intention of this country. Well, our state parties are the laboratory of elections. And so we're trying to do everything we can to lift up the great ideas that our states are innovating in, the different projects and ideas they're innovating. We're lifting those up to make sure that other states are aware and they can adopt them as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that action going on and that planning and that vision. One of the things I heard yesterday or the day before is that, I mean, it's not something that it's new to us, that the Republicans have an excessive amount of more money that's being given to them through different PACs and whatnot, and, uber wealthy individuals and businesses that want to keep the status quo that we have right now in place. But I heard that even though we may not have the same amount of money in this particular cycle, what matters is that we have the money in the right places and we're using it at the right time. And what are your thoughts around that?
Well, in Minnesota, we say it's all about the many over the money. The many people showing up and taking control of their own democracy is more important than all the money that the billionaires can dump into the system for Republicans. We have one Republican billionaire in Wisconsin who has spent already $3.5 million on the governor's race in Minnesota, trying to buy that office for the Republican Party for the first time in decades. And we in Minnesota are very well aware that we want no cheesehead out of Wisconsin to try and buy the governor's office in Minnesota for Lisa Demuth. And so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the people of Minnesota, the many, overcome the money.
Well, and to that end, let's talk about the two biggest races, and they're all important, so nobody take that the wrong way. But the two races that have been highlighted the most are the governor's race there in Minnesota. Obviously, Senator Klobuchar is our Democratic nominee, and she's a real player. She's a nationally recognized name. There's no question about that. People know who she is. She's run for president, et cetera. Her competitor, candidly, is a lightweight. And once again, someone that doesn't really get it for the citizens of the state of Minnesota, and frankly, for the folks throughout the rest of the country. Talk a little bit about the contrast there. And I know you're not going to rest on your laurels, but talk a little bit about that with that race.
Well, first of all, Senator Amy Klobuchar is one of the hardest working politicians I've ever seen in my career. This is an astounding stat. She visits every single one of our 87 counties every single year. And that has been a priority since she first got elected in 2006. Minnesotans know that she stands with them. She fights alongside them. She understands their priorities, and she goes to work. On the other side, we have Lisa Demuth, who is this candidate. She's the current Speaker of the House. But when she was asked a very simple question, what is one thing you disagree with Donald Trump on? In a state that experienced the retribution campaign of Donald Trump, in Minnesota, where we had 2 Minnesotans killed by federal agents, you know what she said about Donald Trump and what she disagrees with him? Well, I can't think of a single thing.
Yeah,
that's what she said. She can't think of a single thing she disagrees with Donald Trump. She supports his tariffs that are decimating our farmers. She supports his war of choice in Iran that is jacking up gas prices and hurting our farmers when it comes to fertilizer costs. And she supports the big ugly bill, which is gutting rural health care in our state and has already led to clinics closing. Republicans have already closed clinics in this state because of the big ugly bill. Yet Lisa Demuth says, well, I can't think of a single thing she disagrees with Donald Trump on.
And it's another rubber stamp, just like Tafoya would be in the Senate, just another rubber stamp. And trash talking Minnesotans along the way, stepping on Minnesotans to get to that next level. Just for what purpose? To be another rubber stamp. And during the break, we came up with another word that we're going to use when we speak about women who were following Trump, lapdogs. Just being another lapdog to Donald Trump. I guess I must be predicting this. Dr. El Sayed in Michigan is running against Mike Rogers and has referred to him as another rubber stamp. A lot of the folks, frankly, most of the Republicans that are running for national offices throughout the country are just going to be a rubber stamp because, Chair Cobon, when they're asked that question that you just put out, their response is a milquetoast answer. It's not. There's no substance to it whatsoever, and that's why I'm so proud of what you guys are doing in the state as a representation of how we can lead. Talk a little bit about Ms. Flanagan and her race, since we're giving our candidates their flowers.
Absolutely. Peggy Flanagan has been a leader in this state for 2 decades. Minnesotans know her well as our lieutenant governor. She started the fight when she was the president of the Children's Defense Fund. She started the fight for paid family medical leave. That fight took over a decade. Mm-hmm. And in 2023, the Walz-Flanagan administration delivered on that when the Democrats were able to pass legislation. And paid family medical leave is a reality in Minnesota because Peggy Flanagan started the fight over a decade ago. She led the fight in Minnesota for raising the minimum wage and indexing it to inflation. These are the things she's done to make life more affordable for Minnesotans. Universal school meals, like all these things that we are so proud of in Minnesota. Peggy Flanagan was part of making sure that they could happen for the citizens. So she's a leader that I think Minnesotans are greatly appreciative of and will back her. And most importantly, they see her as somebody who will be with them. Like Peggy Flanagan is with Minnesotans, while Michelle Tafoya is with Donald Trump. It's that simple. The choice in November is crystal clear. Every chance Peggy Flanagan has had to make a decision between should I stand with Minnesotans or should I go stand with Donald Trump, she stood with Minnesotans. And every single time Michelle Tafoya has been given a choice, do I stand with Minnesotans or stand with Donald Trump? She stands with Donald Trump. The choice is crystal clear in this race, and we're really excited about Peggy. She's a hometown girl. She is somebody who is Minnesotan through and through. She's from the White Earth Nation, actually, one of
Yep.
the 11 tribal communities, sovereign nations in our state. And they're very, very proud of her Native American heritage. And I got to recently have dinner with Chairman Fairbanks of the White Earth Nation, and he and was just so incredibly proud. You know, these are small tribal nations, and so they all know each other.
Yep.
And I bumped into somebody on the reservation, and I was saying, I'm here to talk about the election coming up. And I said, Peggy Flanagan's running, and the person lit up and he literally goes, well, her dad is my uncle. And I said, that makes her your cousin. That's amazing.
And you, by bumping into this person, Chair Caldwell, you became a cousin as well. That's how we roll in Chicago. You bump into somebody that's a cousin of somebody, you just get pulled into that family. So good on you. I say this as respectfully and humbly as I can. We are so proud of folks like you who are leading from the front. As an old business coach of mine said to me 3 decades ago, you lead from the front. And that means you take some of the bruises and you take some of the hits, but you do that with the care for the people that have decided that they're going to follow you, if you will. So kudos to you and your team for that, and spreading that to other chair party heads throughout the country, because like you said, people want to see that, because it does give them a reason to come out of the silo, a reason to say, you know what, I got to get off the sidelines this time and get involved. What are some closing thoughts that you can leave for our audience here in Illinois, here down in North Carolina, there in Minnesota, and throughout the rest of the country?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's deeply meaningful. I appreciate that. And it's an honor to serve in this moment. This job couldn't be more meaningful than it is right now. The parting comment is this: we have 75 days. Get out there and knock a door. Have a conversation with a voter. Really make sure that you are doing everything you can to get out of your own bubble and connect with people in real life, at the grocery store, at work, in line at the gas station, wherever you happen to be, at the dog park. Find a way to have a conversation. People are concerned about the chaos and confusion that continues to come out of Washington every single day. And the antidote for that is to simply be in communication with your fellow citizens about the stakes of the election on November 3rd. We have 75 days. We have to have as many conversations as we can and make it deeply relational. Here's my tip. When you want to start a conversation, just look at somebody and go, hey, how's it going? What are you most concerned about these days? And when you do that, instead of launching into why your candidate is the best candidate, when you ask somebody how they're doing and what they're concerned about, it will start a fruitful conversation.
It's surprising, but they'll probably tell you what the answer to that question is if you lead with that. So, Chair Caldwell, thanks for being with us. We will have you back again. We're shouldering up. We got to get our 5 Great Lakes states back on chart. So we appreciate the leadership that you've shown to the state and to the rest of the country. And we look forward to having you back again soon, okay?
Thank you so much. Have a great morning.
You too. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
There you go, guys. I mean, one of our other great leaders. What can you say? He has been right there out in front. Like I said, he's taken the bruises like so many of our other state chairs have been doing, and we want to be able to amplify that as much as possible. Peggy Flanagan is going to be a great U.S. Senator. Ms. Klobuchar is going to be a great governor, and we're going to do what we can to help further their message. So there you go. Let's take a quick break, Henry. Should we go ahead and do that right now? All right. The number, guys, is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back. When we come back, by the way, we're going to be talking with Ann Kim, who's going to tell us a little bit about what's happening over at Washington Monthly and her latest work, Poverty for Profit. Yeah, it'll be a good segment. Looking forward to having her on in a minute. This is Chu's Views. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back. Yes, indeed, to Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number. Thanks to Party Chair Richard Kalbaum for being with us for a bit. Follow him. Find out from him what can you do to get involved to help, no matter where you are in the country. We've got so many great state leaders. Shout out to Nancy. Great comments this morning. Thank you. Jill, Cassie, Al, thank you guys for your comments this morning. 708, appreciate you guys reminding us about the strengths that we can bring to the conversation by having the conversations we have in our party. Ann Kim is one of those voices. She's with the Washington Monthly. You guys have heard her here on the show before, and it's always a privilege and a pleasure to talk with her. Senior editor at Washington Monthly, author of Poverty for Profit, How Corporations Are Getting Rich Off of America's Poor. Good morning, Ann, and welcome back to Choose Views. Oh, okay, well, I think she's there. She should be. We'll keep it moving, guys. Oh, she's there somewhere. Maybe the gremlins decided they wanted to get in the middle of the conversation. But as I said, poverty over profit, how corporations get rich off of America's poor. Is she there? Ann, I think I hear you. No?
Hey, Richard, I can't hear you.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm here. So let's probably turn her mic off so we're not talking and not catching her. We'll get to you in a second. We'll get to you in a second. So sit tight, you guys. As I said, poverty over profit. Why is that an important topic to discuss or to write about? And I think if you think about it as it relates to where so many people in America have been and had been feeling for a long time. I go back to what Ronald Reagan did to impact this country. He made it easier by being at the tip of the spear of the tax code. He made it easier for corporations to be in a situation where they paid less taxes across the board. Let's just call it that. And because of that, we are now 40 plus years later in a situation where corporations are they're just sucking in all sorts of resources. I talked earlier about what's going on with this situation with the NAACP down in Memphis, taking resources, strengthening the corporation rather than strengthening the folks that are in that community. I think Ann's with us now. Good. Ann, can you hear me now?
Yes. I'm sorry about that. Thank you so much for having me, Richard. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Listen, live radio is going to happen. The beauty of it is we have great technicians and engineers that figure it out pretty quickly. Welcome back. Good to hear your voice. How have you been?
Thank you. It's been good. It's been a summer, right?
Yeah. I just said earlier in the show, and a couple of listeners got after and teased me about it. I said, okay, listen, guys. Just because Labor Day is a week and a half away does not mean that summer is over. And I always, summer is over in 30 days. But some people are like, nope, I'm sorry. Kids are starting to go back to school. My lettuce is wilting, all these things. And like, summer's over. But I'm like, no, we're still here. Let's enjoy it. Let's appreciate it, particularly for those of us in the upper Midwest. And your book is phenomenal. It's just flat out phenomenal. You. And I was talking about this from the perspective of what's happening down in Memphis with this AI center through X. And I'm not sure how much you're familiar with it, but it is a perfect example of companies profit over and taking advantage of communities that have lower income or lower resources, however we want to frame it. And just dropping an AI center in there with these loud A turbine engines. I don't know how much you've heard about it, but this is a great example about, corporations just saying, you know what, we don't care. We're going to go get ours. And if it ends up hurting people in a community, we really don't care. We've got the money to fight any of the suits that come our way. Talk a little bit about your observations about that, but also the broader part of your book.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Richard. I mean, corporations are taking advantage of opportunities where they can to go into the most vulnerable communities. And, my book is about how they're especially doing that by exploiting government programs that are intended to help these very communities, right? And we can talk about this, but it's gotten a lot worse under the Trump administration because this president has done his best to monetize the presidency in every way, but he's also provided plenty of opportunities for companies to do the same thing. I give an example here of ICE detention centers. Detention centers are mostly run by a couple companies, one being the Geo Group. And you've heard about all these horrific abuses that are happening in these privatized detention centers. But that's been going on for decades with privatized prisons, taking advantage of federal and state money to basically carry out mass incarceration of folks, and now detention, and now immigrants. Tax prep companies that colonize in low-income neighborhoods, Dollar stores that are colonizing neighborhoods and not providing fresh fruits and vegetables. There's so many instances of kind of corporate colonization of communities, and providing substandard services, taking government money, and then turning around and exploiting the communities that are the most vulnerable.
Can you explain?
And as you
Can you explain a
Yeah,
little bit
go
more
ahead.
about corporate colonization, and then keep going? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no. I mean, just to back up a little bit, the federal government spends nearly $1 trillion every year on programs that either, directly impact low-income folks or disproportionately impact people who are in low-income communities. And a lot of that is healthcare. And we can talk about Medicaid dentists and providers that specialize in providing care to people who are on Medicaid, often at substandard levels, right? But for every program, there is a cottage industry of companies that have made it their business to extract as much of the money as possible from these programs without necessarily providing the benefits to low-income people that they're supposed to do. Like landlords that specialize in Section 8 housing, for instance, and provide really substandard places for people to live, places without the right maintenance or infestations of various. It just goes on and on. I talk about that in the book, and it's happened because of the company's ability to lobby for breaks in the legislatures to make that happen. Prisons being a great example of that, and detention centers being a great example of that. Complexity in government programs, and then third, this belief propagated by Ronald Reagan, but conservatives generally, that business can do better than government. And that is just simply not true. That is just simply not true. We have taken away so much ability from state workers and government workers to actually decide whether someone is entitled to benefits and how much they get, and given that to for-profit contractors who are making these life and death decisions on behalf of people. And you can see over and over and over again, whether it's healthcare, denial of care. In Texas, the entire welfare system is run by a contractor. You wouldn't know it if you call them up, but it's the case that a company called Maximus is deciding whether people who there are entitled to welfare benefits, entitled to health care, entitled to SNAP. Should those decisions be in the hands of private companies? I think a lot of people would say not if they knew.
No, most people would say that you're exactly right. And the crazy thing about this company, Maximus, is that they haven't really been investigated to my satisfaction. And that, not that that means a damn thing, but to the point to say that are they approving and allocating the benefits appropriately and to the people that need them the most. And this is where racism and familial status comes into play, because from what I've read, they really kind of walk the fine line of if a family is of a certain ethnicity, or if the family is not one that has the makeup that the private corporation behind closed doors thinks it should, those benefits are going in other directions. And that to me is a huge problem when you have private corporations running programs that should be run by, a well-run government organization. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you delegate state power to a company, all of whatever biases a company might hold or its workers might hold are going to come into play. And this privatization, this corporate colonization, I think is a big part of a lot of systemic racism, systemic problems we're seeing in communities all across the country. People are frustrated that anti-poverty programs don't seem to work, but you know what? These companies have a vested interest in seeing poverty remain entrenched because that is their business model,
Yep.
right? Their client base, so to speak, their customer base is impoverished people and the government programs that are intended to help them. So they're kind of working in the shadows. I mean, you make that point that these companies have not been properly investigated, and that's because they hide.
Yep.
States don't make a big deal out of telling people, oh, hey, we're not actually making decisions on your behalf. We're contracting it to a private contractor who may or may not have your best interests at heart. But it's very much in their interest to stay out of the shadows. How many people have heard of Maximus? It's a multi-billion-dollar company,
Yep.
but very few people have heard of them.
And the crazy thing about it, and we're going to go to a quick break, and is that in the states where these private companies are running programs that should be run by the state or a federal agency, what's also happening is in the contracts that they write, that are written, that they sign with the government entity, it's basically built in, kind of going back to the old Bush days, that you can't sue them or challenge their decision because the federal government or the state government has given them this sort of off ramp that their decisions can't be challenged. And it's just a weird cycle, of protecting these private corporations from any sort of jurisdictional influence. So it's a crazy, crazy cycle.
Yeah.
And let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more, a little bit about the book, but also how we can kind of bend the arc a little bit when it comes to moving this conversation in a better direction for folks that are in these poverty communities. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of Chew's Views. All right, guys, welcome back to Chew's Views. If you are just tuning in, I'm Richard Chew. Thanks for being with us. Today, we are talking right now with Ann Kim, who is the author, she's senior editor at the Washington Monthly, which I love. And she is a public policy expert. And most recently, her book, Poverty Over Profit, which we were talking about before the break. And I want to ask you a question. I made a statement. I've made this statement a bunch of times. It's like I made it once, but I've said this a number of times, that businesses in the long run are going to hurt themselves by not leaning in the direction of the consumer, not leaning in the direction of people who actually spend money, given that we are a consumer-driven economy. If you lean in the direction too long of those like you, meaning other businesses or politicians like Trump and the administration, that's going to run out at some point. I believe. I could be crazy. But you wrote this great article entitled "Businesses Should Step Up to Defend Democracy." Talk about the genesis of that and then where you kind of see things now.
Yeah, so that article was based on an interview with a tremendous leader named Verena Winder, who is the founder of an organization called Leadership Now. And they're a small organization, but they're organizing businesses that really support the idea that democracy is central to a healthy business environment. What they argue is that you can't have a despotic system where only a few people at the top are profiting, because that means that 99% of businesses that aren't, within the inner confines of the Trump circle or whatever are going to do well. So it's to everyone's benefit to have free competition. And it's exactly to your point, Richard. In the long run, the businesses that are cozying up to this administration or to any administration that's offering special benefits, they're not going to benefit in the long run because people see that, people know, and they're getting their advantages not based upon the merit of their product, but because of these special favors. That's not a sustainable situation.
No, and I go back to something that I said for the longest time about the playing field being level. One of the major reasons I should say that the playing field should be level is because at some point it will be out of balance, and we're at that point. I said last April, May that we're not teetering toward authoritarianism. We're already there. We're not teetering toward an imbalance in our economy and oligarchs. They've already done that, and it's going to reach a point that the imbalance is going to could cause those businesses to cave in on themselves. Because at some point, I think that the American community will say, and some are saying it now based on who they're voting for in these special elections and these primaries, I'm done with this garbage. And you guys are eventually going to listen, and that's why we have these protests. I think that's why we have some of these boycotts. What are your thoughts there, Ann?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And getting back to your point about the data centers, that is why this backlash is happening, right? I mean, these companies have too much power, and it's undeserved. People see that. Yeah, and that's what people are reacting to. I mean, we in America, we really cherish this idea of level playing field, as you're saying, and competition. But, when people are getting ahead because they're taking advantage of special contacts or the fact that they've contributed to a ballroom or something like that, that really gets to people's fundamental sense of fairness, or rather unfairness, about this economy. And we're seeing that backlash, and I think you're absolutely right. It's coming, and we're going to see it hopefully big in November, and that will help level the playing field going forward.
So tell us some of the responses that you've gotten from not only readers, but the business community at large when it comes to your book, because it's an expose is a word that comes to mind every time I look at it. It's an expose of things that a lot of people don't want to talk about when it comes to what corporations have been doing for a long time. And I give a kind of a date stamp of Ronald Reagan in my lifetime, my adult lifetime, is that he changed the narrative. He literally changed the laws, or allowed the laws to be changed. And we've been on this path for a long, long time. What are people saying to you when you talk to folks about the book, or when people talk to you about the book?
Yeah, people are pretty surprised, I would say, because so much of this has happened over a 40, 50-year period, right? Since Ronald Reagan, who started the privatization train. And I have to say, Bill Clinton completed it, with welfare reform. What he did was he allowed private companies to run welfare programs. Before the welfare reform of 1996, private companies could not actually do this. But, that enabled the companies that we've talked about to really explode in terms of their revenue. And then the complexity with the tax code too, like the earned income tax credit. The tax prep companies exploded after the expansion of the earned income tax credit that also happened during Clinton. So this is a bipartisan problem. People see it. What I think I'm hearing now is that there's a lot of despair at the moment about how to unwind all this, because it has been a 40, 50-year process. And the awareness is just the first step. Unwinding not only the clawback of power, but changing how we think about who is poor in America and why. That is the biggest challenge I think that we face, because ever since the founding of the country, it's always been about the quote unquote deserving poor. And as we've talked about, Richard, that's super racialized, based on all sorts of perceptions and false stereotypes. How do you change the narrative about why people are poor? Because of systemic barriers that they face, and not because of who they are. And this administration has done so much to continue to blame the victims of poverty for being poor because of who they are. We've got decades of work ahead of us to get back to where we were, even in 2020, because of what this administration has done. So people are beginning to understand, but it feels like it's going to be very difficult to turn things around so long as we have the administration that we have, and so long as we have this very us versus them mentality that's just making it very difficult to find progress on these big issues that are confronting us.
What do you think about, there's the contributing factors have been bipartisan, or there have been presidents and administrations that have leaned in this direction and created a problem or furthered the problem. So, as we wrap up, and there's so much more to talk about, we got to have you back on again soon because I want to talk more about this as we're getting closer to the midterm election. But what do you think that it's the solution or the move in the direction of a solution is going to be going to have to be partisan, i.e., the next administration and the next leaders on the state level are going to have to be partisan in this and not be worried about working across the aisle, because sometimes that gets us in trouble because it takes too much doggone time.
I know this is a really hard question, Richard. On the one hand,
Sorry.
on the one hand, you it feels like it's got to be partisan in order to get something done. On the other hand, is it going to be a lasting achievement if it's not bipartisan? You know what I mean?
I do.
When you look back, it's Civil Rights Act, all of those things, those are bipartisan. The one big beautiful bill, I hope, will not last because it was so partisan.
Right.
So there's that trade-off, between pragmatism versus, a sustainable achievement. Tough question.
And I think, well, I like the way that you responded to that because it's kind of where my brain is too. Some of the stuff that we got into with the goal being that we want to include everybody because it's kind of the statement that, so much of the progressive liberal democratic mindset has is we want to include as many voices as possible. But I think every now and again, you just have to draw the line and say, no, that's not going to work, or that's not what we're interested in, because it actually doesn't help as many people as you might think it is. And trying to be bipartisan sometimes gets us into trouble because we can't make a decision that we know that the majority of Americans are going to lean in the direction of supporting. So I think it's going to take a little bit of partisanship right now to get the truck out of the ditch, so to speak. And real quickly, how can folks find you as we wrap up today?
Yeah, I'm at Washington Monthly, WashingtonMonthly.com, and on Substack. Look for Washington Monthly there. And I have my own site, AnnSKim.com. And the books are available on Amazon. So really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Absolutely. We got to give some books away. We have to talk about that offline. We got to give some of your books away. Ann Kim, y'all, go check her out. Senior editor at Washington Monthly and author of the best-selling book, Poverty Over Profit, How Corporations Get Rich Off of America's Poor. Ann, thanks for being with us this morning. We will talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Richard.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Henry, let's go to a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in. We will be right back with more of Chu's Views. All right, for those listening to WCPT, make sure to tune in to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. She'll be taking your calls today, talking with Greg Hines from Crane Chicago Business, and Rich Eberwine with 3 stories you may have missed on a digital news platform. You know how to find us, you know how to find Joan. For Patty, tune in this evening, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, joined by Peter Janko, candidate for Illinois House 69th District, He currently serves as the Democratic State Central Committee person in Illinois' 11th Congressional District. Ellie Krug, transgender activist and lawyer. Mike Benenbaugh, Navy veteran and historic preservationist, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. But right now, we're going to talk some legal stuff. We want everybody to stand up, all rise, because our man Adam Klasfeld is back with us. Good morning, Adam. Welcome back to Chu's Views.
Great to see you again.
Man, I get the biggest smile. I'll be, on social media and boom, Adam will pop up on somebody's show. Man, you're collecting the miles right now. You've been around the universe doing the work. Talk to us. What's been going on?
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. Yeah, I've been, it's always a fire hose during Trump's Trump 2.0. It's drinking from a fire hose. There's everything going on with David Hearn, that case collapsing. Gosh. There's everything going on in the anticipation of the SPLC trial, and that is coming up for this fall. And, James Comey, the government putting a number of motions in that case. So I've been busy.
Yes, you have. In case people don't know, Adam is the founder and editor-in-chief of All Rise News. If you need a little bit of a legal push or clarification on things legal, check out Adam's work, because he breaks it down. He makes the complication of law a lot easier to understand and to be able to say, okay, I think I get it. I get it a little bit better now. So, Adam, thank you for that. The simplicity that you bring to some very complicated issues that we all have to be aware of. I got to talk to you about this case down in Mississippi/Memphis, which I'm sure you're aware of. I hope you are, in terms of the NAACP's suit against Musk Company, that they're filing due to the fact that Musk and xAI is dropped another data center into this community in Memphis that basically, without going through, they basically, as Ann Kim said prior to you, they use some of the local bypasses to get this in. But now it's a noise issue in terms of pollution, and it's also an air pollution issue. And the NAACP has joined the Mississippi State Conference and represented by the Southern Environmental Law Center and Earth Justice, and they filed a lawsuit. And now this is moving forward. Talk to us about what you know about this case or about this filing.
Well, I know that there has been a big push around the country against data centers. I know that it's a historically unpopular issue that Trump is pretty much one of the only people to really throw his weight behind. And I know that we're in the early stages of the legal pushback. There's been a real civic engagement pushback around the country, people speaking out about the data centers in their backyards. This is, as I understand, pretty early stages of this legal pushback. I haven't seen any breaking rulings striking down, for example, a court blocking a data center. At least that hasn't crossed my radar yet. So I'm going to be very interested to see how that pans out.
Yeah, we'll have to share some notes back and forth on this, because the DOJ they intervened in late June. And they tried to get it dismissed. But the other part of this that's interesting is that they're trying to use the angle of it being a national security issue, that closing down a center like this, or shutting down a data center like this, is a national security issue because of the threat toward America's economic and energy security, which is some of the fanciest words of BS that I've seen in a long time. It's a national security, but what about the health security of the people in the community, which is a national security when we don't have healthy people?
Right. I mean, that the Trump DOJ has used the national security justification in court repeatedly. And to be fair, it's not only a Trump DOJ thing. That has been a classic government position whenever they try to advance a particular policy. But with Trump, it's been turbocharged. The East Wing Ballroom is a national security issue in their mind. But
Adam, hold on, man. He's got he had the micro version of it, known as a catering container to crawl into. But the ballroom, I mean, why didn't he have a bigger container rather than he wants a bigger ballroom? Why didn't he have a bigger container? I mean, help us out, man.
Right. And so, Trump has gone all in, and his Department of Justice have gone all in on backing AI, and in particular, Elon Musk backed AI. Just recently, I believe it was yesterday, the Trump DOJ put a brief in support of Elon Musk's AI, not in terms of a data center, but in terms of a kind of Grok-like technology.
Yeah. And giving them further access. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
Right. That had to do with deep fake pornography, that they said federal law conflicted with a state law, and they wanted the kind of, in essence, more permissive federal law to take precedence.
Yeah. What about the states being able to govern that? I mean, it's such a shell game in terms of the states versus federal jurisdiction. And anytime a threat is to their ability to have a state actually do what they said they wanted to give the states the power to do. We can use the conversation around women's right to choose. Then suddenly they got to jump back in because the states did what was right for the women in that state or the people in that state. Oh, no. That's not what we meant. You didn't read that last bottom part of the paragraph, the dog-eared page where we had in because that's what happens. And they play this shell game with states versus federal jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And oh, no, that's okay. And to put a fine point on it, in this particular legal battle, the position of the Trump DOJ is that the state's version of the law to guard against deep fake pornography is too strict, that it covers up more body parts than the federal government's version, which they want to uphold. So, it's an issue that it's strange to see the federal government go up to the plate to say this state is protecting too much against an issue that everyone believes is wrong and horrible.
What about the? Come on, Adam. What about the kids, though? I mean, let's once again. It's talk about deep fake. Talk about fake. How about a fake DOJ? I'm just waiting for the next time that a reporter is in a situation where it's Trump or somebody else in the administration, and they ask a question on a legal issue, or an issue that has some legal threads to it. And Trump says, Adam and Richard, where are you from? And we tell them where we're from. And he says, fake news. I think that you and I would look at each other and then look back at Trump and say, yeah, because you're a fake president. I mean, I'm waiting for somebody to pull at Adam and Richard on Trump and say, yeah, because we're just matching your energy because you're a fake president. It would get us thrown out, but it would be worth it.
And it's funny, I think we'd be waiting a long time for that pushback, because when I see these press conferences and he tears into someone, calling them fake news or personally insulting them, they move on to the next question.
Right.
And the reporters, there's no sense of solidarity. There's no sense of standing up with a colleague. I'd like to see some real pushback.
Without a doubt, man. Talk to us a little bit. We'll go to a break in a second, but talk to us a little bit about Katie Phang versus Todd Blanche. I mean, we got to prop up this sister. We got to take care of her and make sure she's got all the protections that you need, because the next thing you know, they're going to try to find out. They're going to try to say something about her that's tied to immigration, or somebody in her family's not here properly. You know how they're going to try to roll on this one. But let's talk about Katie Phang and Todd Blanche.
So talk about effective pushback. She has successfully won a right to sue to release the Epstein files, informational standing. And in a recent hearing that I was following, I was reporting on it, Judge Sullivan could not have thrown down the gauntlet more at the federal government, basically saying that he's ready to find them in contempt if they don't follow his orders. They were supposed to give him a real rationale for explain why you haven't released these FBI interviews, explain why these redactions are necessary. And they keep beating around the bush. And at the second half of the hearing, Judge Sullivan talked about something in his personal history, that he found the government in contempt in the case of the late Alaska Senator Ted Stevens.
Right.
And he was the only judge in the D.C. Circuit jurisdiction to have ever found the federal government in contempt. He just fired that shot saying, look, I am willing to do this. I'm not proud of this, is one of the things that he said, because in the after effect of that case, there were one of the prosecutors took his own life. So this was a case with a heavy history, and he has strong feelings about this one, but he also has strong feelings about protecting the public interest. And so this was a major win for Katie Phang to go bring this case in front of a judge who was not only willing to say, yes, journalists have informational standing, that if you are not given information that the law entitles you to have, you have the right to sue, you have the right to go to court. And if the government doesn't provide that information, or provide a really good explanation as to why they're not providing that information, then they can be found in contempt. So she did a really effective job. Not only, many journalists bring Freedom of Information Act suits.
Right.
But
then that leads down the path of national security is kind of the block that they put on when it's a FOIA request, oftentimes. Right.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's so important about this case is that it's a whole new avenue by which journalists can claim information in the public interest. And that was because Katie Fang stood up.
It's going to set a precedent. It potentially could set a precedent to give legal standing in the future to other journalists that are requesting information from this based on this basis, is how I want to try to say it. And it also says to Adam, and then we're going to take a quick break, Katie Fang's just a better attorney than Todd Blanche is.
Right.
She's a better attorney. She gets it better. She figured out a way to use the legal system on a state and federal level to really properly go after information that the country so desperately needs to out this cabal. Adam, let's take a quick break, my man. We're going to come back and we'll talk a little bit more about a few other cases that are out there. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chew. Keep it locked in. We'll be right back with more of me and Adam chopping it up here on Chew's Views. We'll be right back. Yes, he is the founder of and editor-in-chief of All Rise News. I'm talking about my man, Adam Klasfeld. I'm Richard Chew, and this is Chew's Views. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Adam, talk to us about what's happening. I don't know if how much you can lean into this, but the Southern Poverty Law Center trial. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, the biggest recent development, there have been a couple, but the SPLC has lost its motion to dismiss the case for vindictive prosecution. And in my mind, it was a pretty stunning ruling. So to take a step back, the Trump DOJ has gone after the SPLC, accusing them of wire fraud and money laundering on an outlandish theory that when they said that they were fighting white supremacy and racism, they were actually funding it because they paid informants. Well, the FBI uses informants. People use informants to get information on the groups that they want to get information that could damage them. And there's been all sorts of evidence about that. But about the vindictive prosecution motion, because what is very interesting to me about this legal fight is we see left and right people on Trump's enemies list getting indicted, getting prosecuted, getting investigated. And what does it take to actually prevail on a motion to dismiss for vindictive prosecution? And here you had the President of the United States attacking the SPLC. You had Todd Blanche, after the SPLC's indictment, spreading misinformation about the SPLC on TV and having to walk it back. That was the subject of a different court fight. You had Harmeet Dillon under him talking about them on TV and saying that they went after my friends, which would be evidence of vindictive prosecution. Now, the judge in that case, U.S. District Judge Emily Marks, who's a Trump appointee, she ruled against the SPLC and said, well, set all of that noise, as she called it, aside. You have to show something going on in the actual district where it's taking place, the Middle District of Tennessee. Excuse me, Middle District of Alabama. I'm thinking of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
That's okay.
But the Middle District of Alabama, there was a whistleblower report from that district sent to Congress, specifically to Congressman Raskin, saying the main justice is leaning on us to rush through this indictment. We have serious concerns about that. That's not mentioned anywhere in the ruling. So this is serious for the SPLC because it means, one, they're going to need to stand trial, but there's a larger question here. And I would normally, I've been covering the courts for about a decade and a half. And normally, someone not winning a vindictive prosecution motion, they're very tough to win. But the Trump DOJ, this is a whole different ballgame. What does it take? If the president of the United States goes after you, if the senior officials in the Justice Department go after you, and there's a whistleblower report, what the judge found here is that's not even enough to start an investigation into vindictive prosecution. And so it makes one really wonder, where is the check on our system to stop the government from retaliating against you simply because they don't like what you do, they don't like your speech. MAGA world was very upset by the SPLC's reporting on Charlie Kirk. After Charlie Kirk's assassination, the SPLC, like everyone else, condemned the assassination, but they were critical of what he said,
right?
And they were in their monitoring of hate speech, and so there was they sort of, the SPLC after that, they were subject to a lot of backlash from MAGA world, leading to this indictment. And one wonders if a vindictive prosecution motion backed by all that evidence can't prevail. Where is that check on the system in Trump 2.0 and the revenge tour?
Yeah, that's exactly the right title for it. I mean, I think about an article that a good friend of ours on the show, Karen Byrne of True Blue Politics podcast, wrote on Substack last week about the situation with the SPLC and the KKK and this infiltration and the money and Heidi Beirich and her organization on extremism, and trying to, now they're trying to pull other people in who were part of doing what the government has done to infiltrate organizations and using money and spycraft and to do it. I actually thought about the movie Black Klansman in this moment, because you know what I'm saying? I thought,
oh, totally. I think that's absolutely right. And you mentioned Heidi Beirich. So she was just indicted. She's the first employee of the SPLC to be charged by this DOJ. And they leave certain things out of the indictment. Like, for example, what the informant, even according to their indictment, the information that they got helped find information about an extremist organization, that she wrote an article exposing all sorts of financial improprieties. Now, what did this informant's program accomplish? We now know from the public record that it stopped a potential terrorist attack on a synagogue in Las Vegas. We know that they stopped a crime of someone trying to hide extremist affiliations in Pennsylvania to get a security clearance. We know that the Trump administration makes a lot of hay about trying to do an alternate history of the hate march in Charlottesville, and they try to blame that on the informant. But what did we find out through this litigation? What did the informant do? The informant compiled a dossier of all the people who would be attending that Charlottesville hate march, so that when federal law enforcement was looking into it, when local law enforcement was looking into it, they would know that this neo-Nazi is going to be there, this Klansman is going to be there. And so I think right now it's so important to get the hard facts about this case out there, because there's an attempt through this prosecution at revisionist history. And you hear early in their indictment, you had Caroline Leavitt claiming that essentially that Charlottesville was a false flag, which is ludicrous. That there were prosecutions, there were arrests, there were murders.
The woman that died from the guy that drove through the crowd.
Absolutely, Heather Heyer.
Thank you.
and an assault of an innocent bystander. There was no false flag. The informant, if you closely read the indictment, they don't even accuse him of doing any serious organizing. They say that he was on an organizer's chat. And what does he do with that access, with that information? He hands a large dossier to the federal government, which knew that the SPLC helped them for years until Kash Patel last year said, I don't want to work with these guys anymore. The SPLC and the ADL and other organizations worked hand in hand with the federal government to disrupt crimes, to disrupt terrorism plots by the ugliest, most hateful groups in the country.
Yep.
And I think one of the goals that the government's trying to do, they want to paint with this really broad brush and say that, because it's an informants program, they were funding the Klan, they were funding the neo-Nazis. No, they were hiring informants that there is a vast public record showing the damage, the degrading that they did to these hate groups.
Yeah.
And
so how much worse, without this infiltration, how much worse things could have been for some very specific groups, Jewish communities, Muslim communities, African-American communities, Latino communities, some women's groups. I mean, they got in the way because of this infiltration. They got in the way of allowing those groups to further their hateful extremist message and intent. And this is where, unfortunately, Heidi got caught up in this, but it not for doing the wrong thing, but for exposing the wrongs that were being done. And it's just, and our federal government and our state governments have done the same doggone thing in many, many cases. So it's crazy. Hey man, I know we got to wrap up, and it's always great to see you. I'm always glad you're doing well. And like I said, I follow the breadcrumbs when you're out and about doing stuff, and I'm able to kind of further my knowledge by following what you're doing with All Rise News. Real quick as we wrap up, give us your 30-second comments on the 0-2 losing streak of the federal government when it comes to some of these Department of Justice losses with regard to voter rolls. And now they're going to try to take it to the Supreme Court. But they keep losing, man. They're 0-20. Come on.
0-22, I believe the tally is now.
Wow.
They've been going all over the country. Harmeet Dillon, who is Trump's former election lawyer in 2020, is the person behind this. And the voter section chief is a person who went after a voting machine company. They've been on a losing streak since this happened. They papered lawsuits in 30 different jurisdictions. They're 0-22 right now. And it goes to show that just big picture, authoritarian actions, the attempts to get hands on sensitive information to interfere with the elections, that goes up against the rule of law. That goes up against the courts, and pushback is working.
Yeah, it is. It's great to see that. So we all have to support them keeping up the fight. Guys, you got to follow Adam Klasfeld. If you need some kind of legal help to understand the things that are going on in the country right now, that's the place to go. All Rise News. He's the editor and editor-in-chief and founder of it. Adam, man, it's always good to see you on the show. Look forward to having you back again, because there's going to be some legal stuff that we're going to talk about. So take care of yourself and please stay safe, okay?
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next time.
All right, man. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Guys, thanks for being with us today. Thanks to Richard Kalbaum from Minnesota. Thanks to Ann Kemp for being with us this morning. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And as always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll talk to you tomorrow.